Human design is known as the science of differentiation. The founder, Ra Uru Hu, taught us that we are all here to deliver uniqueness, that divinity in our differentiation is what we are all about. Now, differentiation is not an abstract concept. This is really what we are in the flesh, unique. Differentiation is our greatest gift to ourselves and the world. This key to unlock your genetic potential that human design offers you helps you too to release your contribution to the whole of humanity. And in this program, we're going to be working with how do we make our own lives more efficient, more easeful, more enjoyable when it comes to making money or earning a living. When you have a better sense of yourself and you feel more productive and you can be more profitable in fulfillment of your life's work and purpose, that is something to behold indeed. So, in order to accomplish such a thing, it is about being your own authority, which leads you to live your differentiated divinity, your uniqueness, this magic that is how we are here to align authentically to our fullest potential, highest path, purpose, and truth. We're going to look at each of your designs from a work perspective to help you align to your highest profit potential in the most fulfilling way. Now, you have absolutely no comparison. Each one of you has a different auric form and function based on your definition, and you are utterly, utterly unique. Not just from the surface level that we are going to explore in this program, but each one of you, your personality crystal of consciousness, actually has a unique shape. And so the resonance, the vibrational frequency, the harmony that you can find in your life is going to look differently for each of you. We're going to begin with Human Design Reflectors. Surprise! Because most times reflectors get short shrift. They're left to the end. And I want you to know that everyone has reflected channels, but not everyone obviously is a reflector. Only 1.5 approximately percent of the population. And when you're in the right place, reflector, you particularly listen closely. Your right career will emerge. You are a very special being. Ra would call you the masters of compromise and also poetically, the cosmic judges. So in your key to your genetic potential, you are here to recognize what is different, people that are different, things that don't belong, and you can see who stands out in the homogenized world. Now, this is very, very important to see through these eyes of reflection. Because you have this capability to bring out the best in others and to level people up, it's important to focus on that, not trying to get the others to see what's best about you. So that's one of the most important keys. Besides following your lunar process, your lunar capability. So this means then that you are very valuable in the workplace, whether it be corporate environment or entrepreneurship, because you can see who of the other types are out of step with the direction that the corporate culture is moving in. So you're really good at seeing who's a sore thumb, who's sticking out, because you can absolutely assess, reflect, and judge what is standing out, whether for quote unquote good or bad. And you actually have a tendency to point them out. So you can be really valuable in that sense of being able to see those who are in the lead, so to speak, those who are very, very different, or maybe those who actually don't belong. So it's never a question of whether you can play the game of the business world, whatever business you happen to be in or career, but it's about where. Remember this, where. Your key is where the game is being played. Now, in a small group of 3 to 5 individuals, that is your weakest point, your weakest place. So, the most profound thing for you in looking at career, it's about place being more important than anything for your spirit of abundance to be found. And abundance strictly being a question of spirit, it is about the surprise. Like, I didn't know that was there. This is one of the keys for you to pay attention to. Now, you might find that you really, really don't like being locked into a small group of people. Ra would say that you actually don't belong in the small group. He called them pentas, and you are not a penta person. So the small group dynamic is not an ideal for you. As a matter of fact, it can be incredibly uncomfortable, and you're much better either on your own, like an entrepreneur, or you could be in a partnership, but particularly where you shine is at the center of a larger group. When we say large in human design, 10 or more people. Because you are so, so different, because you're different from everybody else in the fact that you have no defined channels in your design from birth, you have a tremendous advantage. You actually have an advantage of seeing who breaks the order, who breaks the symmetry, who breaks free from the pattern, who is different, how are they different. You can see that, and you can find your purpose through the surprise in that. Remember, it's about the other. Your spirit of surprise, the feeling of abundance that arises from inside, gives you the capability to possess the awareness that is a part of your inherent nature. So the ability to reflect the large group that you're a part of, it's like you're an inherent human monitoring system. So when you're given certain skills in your design, as far as your planetary activations, you can be incredibly aware. And one of the ways that this awareness can show up is like a diagnostician. So the kind of person, let's say if we were talking about the health of someone, you could recognize an ailment in someone because you recognize what's not in the pattern, what's outside of the pattern. In essence, you are designed to be a witness to what is right there in front of you on the material plane. And this can bring surprise. So your key financially is to be independent, sovereign, and free. The thing about reflectors is that you're going to have success in your life if you can find a way to break free from the shackles of dependency. This is so important and key for you. So you make great entrepreneurs. Never directly fully integrated into anything, but having your Teflon aura connectivity to things, which simply reflects. When you look at the openness in your design, don't see it as a vulnerability. It is not. It is absolutely not, because of the nature of your aura, resistant and sampling, testing the waters. So be independent. Don't get stuck in those small groups. So unfortunately for you, the way that human beings are generally raised is in a penta, 3 to 5 people in a family. So you might have had a really rough time growing up. You might have felt more comfortable at school where you were in a large group rather than stuck in a small group. When they had breakout rooms into groups of people, you were still connected to the larger classroom if you were in a small group of your own, say sitting at desks or what have you. So in your work environment, we'll talk more about this, be prepared to advantage your situational relational context and do your best to work with people independently, as in your own timing, in your own way, you calling the shots as an entrepreneur might do, or at the center or hub of a larger group context, whether that be corporate or community, what have you. Remember, 10 or more. That's where you find the spirit of your surprise in the larger group context. So you are absolutely best when you're independent to be able to market yourself in one way or another, whatever your role is. And you might try on a lot of different roles in your life. So use that to your advantage. You gain advantage through knowledge, meaning developing your own intellectual property, because no one's like you. No one has your experience. No one has your awareness. No one has your capability of seeing those things that do not fit, that do not belong. So what is it that you can develop in terms of knowledge, in terms of wisdom? Wisdom lies in the openness, and you have lots of it. So, for what you can know or understand, or whatever it is that you can make sense of relative to your personal endeavors, that's worth a lot of money. And ultimately, something that will allow you the freedom to live your own life if you have your own intellectual property. Now, it's not healthy for you to be forced into situations where you don't feel good, like a dense area of group formations that are fixed, that don't flow, that don't flex because you're a lunar being. So we need to speak about what that means. When you look down at your body graph, you're going to see hanging gate activations that on a regular basis are going to be hitting up with either on the other side of the channel, the moon on a regular pattern, or they're also going to be conjunct with or connected to, right here, those places in your design that are imprinted genetically from birth. And sometimes, many times, in fact, that can be strongly affected by the moon. So your unique gift, because you have reflective channels, and reflective channels are any channels that are totally open in you. Okay, these are all reflective channels. That's why everybody in human design world, we look at all of the holistic nature of what they are imprinted with, not just the imprint, but the lack thereof, the openness. So being very good at seeing the other because you take them in relative to your awareness frequency, but not deeply. You sample. You sample and you can see. Make sure that you are leveraging your capability of seeing what's out of step or what does not belong. Because your spirit of surprise, when you know and you see it for truth, that the cycle of the moon forms a complete whole in you, that those definitions relative to what this lunar cycle does inside of you is it repeats itself. And what that means is, on a very practical level, that you operate on a vastly different time frequency than those of us who have definition in our design. And that leads you to see things very differently. Now, when you are out of step, out of tune, when you're not operating in alignment, the biggest challenge for you is to try to do things spontaneously. What can happen for you is that you get disappointed. And when you're disappointed, it might be because you were relying on or being dependent on some person, maybe being overwhelmed by their intense frequency. Most of them are motor beings. So their solar principle, their light shining through them, as in their broadcasting of their nature consistently, can feel overwhelming. And what can happen is, if you try to fit in and be like them because you fear being invisible or not included in life's experiences, this deep desire to belong can lead you to make the wrong decision. because this fear that's inside of you leads to a desperate attempt to normalize the life or predict what comes next. Seeking the sense of belonging, being like everyone else, this place inside of you when you try to spontaneously initiate or manifest without the consistent energy to accomplish those things, the result is often disappointment. And in this process, you can find yourself identifying with other people's fears, emotions, pressures, their stress, which can intensify the struggle and make it harder for you to find your uniqueness. That's disappointing, isn't it? Now, surprise, Ra would say, quote, it's a wonderful thing to be surprised when the possibilities for something come out of nowhere, that it's still there. Because remember, you are the ones who see who is different, what can be different. And in a homogenized world, that is so sad. It really is. So there is little uniqueness to see. The secret to success on the material plane for you, what you need to know is that your cycle of the moon forms a complete whole in you, your cyclical experience of yourself and your life. So your time frequency is a month, as in you discover what is there after a lunar cycle, after the month has gone by from the moment of you being initiated by life. Whatever it is that life brought to you through people, through transits, you're going to find that if you wait a month, there may be no decision to be made. Or you'll know exactly what to do because you start to move, because it starts to live through you, your life process, your life's work, your unique lunar pattern. The cycle definitions, or what gets created inside of you through the revolution of the moon, forms this complete whole, and it repeats itself. And what this means on a very practical level is that you operate on a different time frequency than people who have definition in their design, because this consistent lunar pattern brings you a specific configuration of reflective strengths in a cyclical process that is absolutely, utterly unique to your specific design. So the first step is to discover your relationship with your own lunar cycle, your month, and see the wholeness of that cycle, what it means, and then to experiment with waiting for the knowing to happen. When you know, you know, you know, and then you go. Okay. So what happens inside of you is this specific sequence, the moon, your lunar sequence, every single month. That is the only thing that is reliable and trustworthy inside of you. This subjective nature of evaluating the cyclical patterns of how life pulses through you, cycles through you, patterns through you, and shifts all around you is your wisdom potential. It is the uniqueness, and everyone is different. So when you look through your lunar cycle, looking through the moon's movement around your own zodiacal frame, it triggers these various gates that form channels. And this is an empowering process for you to observe. When you begin to witness your own unique pattern with awareness, what a difference that makes. It means the whole series of your own innate quantum intelligence comes to the fore, comes to birth within you. So these things are switched on and then off. And this can be really powerful and exciting for you to become aware of. Is it right for you to watch as your nature inside of you, that reflective capability, brings forth projected natures? Projected as in the channel constructs. These red ones are connected up to energy. So anytime you see any of these channels inside of you, they are going to be energy projected channels. The black ones, so long as they are not connected up to these red ones, the black ones have no energy in the projected nature of what it is to be you. energy from within you, energy from inside you. You have energy, but as a type, you reflect. So don't expect yourself to keep up with the Joneses. That can be really challenging. You have a very different time frequency. Your capability of being able to see how the red channels connect up to the black channels and bring you manifested energy through these projected channels, it can be quite something to see, quite interesting as a dynamic. And direct manifestation has to do with these pure manifested channels because these energy centers are directly connected to the throat. So, depending on your design, you're going to have different ways of experiencing your own energy. It's yours, it's the moon, it's yours. When they're connected up to any of these generated channels, you will have a gate on one side. The transit brings in a gate on the other side. And again, most particularly, we're looking for the lunar pattern, your cycle, your frequency, to see the energy that's reliable, trustworthily you. And if you have either a 20 or a 34, you get to see how this pure manifesting generated channel operates inside of you as a lunar reflector because it's a part of you. It's yours to experience in a cyclical way, pattern, depending on the day. As the moon moves around the wheel, it's going to take a half a day to move through a gate. And because you reflect the light of the moon in a consistent monthly pattern through your unique design, it means something comes through you, your aura, which is then spilled out of your aura, which is important and useful and valuable to other people. These many faces of the moon as she changes her face, not only outside of you, but from inside of you. It's so true, isn't it? Have you noticed your different phases of the month? So, useful to other people. How is it that these dormant potentials, these planetary principles in your own design, these are parts of yourself that not only connect up with the moon on a regular basis, they need to get connected with other people correctly in order that you evolve with them. This is the fundamental nature of you as a reflector. As you learn, in this particular context with this body graph, we have 11 projected channels, 2 manifested channels, and 6 generated channels. That is your regular auric frequency. Not that it changes you to be aurically the solar type, but your lunar reflective nature giving you that capability of learning wisdom of what it is to be and see uniquely, differently. The thing that you most urgently need to hear is that there is this cycle that you go through. The cycle you go through comprised of the lunar principle because it forms the whole within you through the month, going through the whole zodiac in approximately 27 and a half days. And that forms a cycle where it moves through all the gates of the zodiac, returning to its original position and then starting again. So these are yours relative to your experiential process of your original nature. You also get compromised. What is compromise? Sounds like a bad thing. Remember, you're the master of compromise because you're always getting compromised by others, the solar beings, because they have full channels, whereas you have a gate activation just hanging. You have many more gate activations hanging than the solar types. So being compromised by others means they have the whole channel, you just have a gate. And so you are learning in this life, your life process is about being flexible, being able to have this capability to connect with other people and to evolve with them. In an unhealthy state, you may not be very flexible. In an unhealthy state, all of this openness may show up inflexible. So remember, wait for your lunar cycle. Over your period of the month, reflectivity is inherent in your nature. So if you can experiment with waiting that full lunar month, somebody asked you a question. Do you want to get married? Oh, that's a big question they popped. Would you get down on your knees and cry, yes, delightedly, so surprised? Or would you say, wonderful opportunity, give me a month? This flies against the face of conditioning. How many movies have you watched where the woman or man accepted, just accepted right there and there instead of waiting? 1.5% of the population need to wait. You're one of them. So can you experiment and see what changes inside of you? Because you as a reflector, these dormant gate activations just hanging there as a potential, they form more connectivities with other people than anyone else will. We call that electromagnetic. Electromagnetic. You are. All of us can be too. Electromagnetic with you, depending on what our connectivity field is with you. And so because of this, you can form really deep connections with very specific people, certain people, whereas other people may not feel so comfortable to be around. Trust yourself. Your mind inside of your head lies. It will say, well, I have to prove myself because in order to be someone that achieves something, I'm going to have to bend over backwards and people please. No, don't do that. Just wait. Wait. If they won't associate with you, except now or not, now or never, it's now or never. If they put you under that much pressure, they're not for you, or the opportunity is not right. If it's right for you, it'll come back to you. Take time to reflect on what's different, who is different, because your perspective is utterly unique, designed to be unobtrusive as far as your auric presence. It's almost like you can slip through the shadows. And yet you're extraordinary in your role by seeing who is different, taking time because you're sensitive to the energetic frequency, the environmental shifts within not only the place that you be in, but especially the transiting field, the frequency field, the planets, their spinning heavenly bodies as they, all of us, spiral through space and time. What it is that you may find is you can sense who is living in alignment or in accordance with their true nature and who's actually operating from conditioning. So this means that to move forward, important decisions require patience because your wisdom emerges over the lunar cycle, the cycles of one's life, because you're deeply attuned to the transiting field. Every day brings a new energetic surprise or availability to see who is different. You might ask yourself, what is different? Because this patient attunement to your own lunar truth shapes your experience of life. The moon in transits is the moment. So as you intelligently assess these lunar principles, the moments of the moon as they move through you, remember you are the one who displays the health, the well-being of a place, a situation, a company. So when you are aware that you are amplifying other people in any given social context, it tells you so much more about where you are and what's going on around you. It doesn't necessarily have anything to do with you personally. Don't take it personal. What's going on around you gives you a lot of data that you're sampling and reflecting upon. So as an alpha, because you are particularly best at the center of a large group or loosely connected to them as an entrepreneur, you may find that you are very different. The The phrase leveling up keeps coming to me. Leveling up the company, being an assessor of value. Rightly so, you're one of those people that would do well in a position of assessing what people make, as in this person, their value, and keeping it fair relative to who is there and what they're doing in the company, for the whole, for the good of the whole. You find your spirit through the surprise as a human monitoring system. So being that diagnostician to see who is different, recognizing what is different, what is outside of the pattern. In essence, again, witnesses, cosmic judges to what's happening on the material plane. Now, when you look down in your body graph and you see any planetary activations hanging out in this section of your body graph, those are empowering principles in you, either self-empowering or empowering. Empowering. Everything here is about empowering you, and you can potentially empower others when you come from an empowered place. This is what's true for all of us who are individual too. This is individuality. In the cosmic reality, empowerment is the key. Now, sharing is a different story. Sharing is about sharing for sharing's sake. It's not necessarily reciprocal. These sharing principles, the red is abstract, it's experiential. The black is logical, it's experimental. Black moves in patterns, red moves in cycles. And so too do you when you look down at your body graph and you see planetary activations that the moon's gonna tap into and moves through you and activates inside of you this circuitry of either understanding the black logic or abstracting, experiencing the red, this sensing through the cyclical process of your awareness principle. Ra would call you a non-energy type. One of my teachers calls you an awareness type. I quite like that. Are you aware that there are certain things inside of you that need to be supported too? This is the support area of the body graph. Mostly tribal ego circuitry or defense circuitry, this black here. The hub of the capability for large groupings, 3 of these channels have a lot to do with management within the group dynamic. And management is about supporting your people. It's about raising them up so that they too can make something of themselves eventually to carry on the tribal rule or value. In this support circuitry, it is important that you are supported too. As the moon moves through you and you find these activations inside that keep you aware of what needs to be supported and who is different, who needs to be supported too, and how. So remember too, as a reflector, you have absolutely no comparison. And when you're no longer concerned about whether you're successful as all those other people, then you begin to really live out your own life. Be at ease with the way that your life manifests and moves. So the strategic decision for you is to wait through that lunar cycle. And the moment you make the decision that's correct for you, all those other things work themselves out. Nothing stands still like the moon. It's always moving. Nothing is disconnected from anything else. Everything is connected to the greater whole. And so too are you. You are the one of all these beings that can really tap into that. So rewrite your relationship with life by tapping into the frequency of your lunar capability, your reflective nature. You are very different. And especially you can see who's operating differently according to what is right for you.